थे, तभी आज जो आपके पास में जितने भी सरल संचार पोर्टल पे WPC के लाइसेंसिंग रिफॉर्म्स दिखते हैं वो केवल और केवल सर के सौजन्य से इम्प्लीमेंट हो पाए हैं। सर ने इम्प्लीमेंटेशन फेज में किसी भी स्टेज पर रिफॉर्म्स में अगर कोई अड़चन आई है तो उसके लिए आगे बढ़ कर के ऑफिसर्स का मनोबल बढ़ाया है। Sir has also inspired the officers to implement the reforms for the benefit of the citizens, for the ease of services and for the development of the country. Thank you, sir, for all your kind support and guidance throughout the implementation of WPC reforms. कार्यों की लिस्ट बहुत लंबी है, समय की सीमाएं हैं, इसलिए मैं पुनः माननीय संचार राज्य मंत्री सर का हैम कम्युनिटी की तरफ से एक बार उनकी गरिमामयी उपस्थिति एवं हम सबका आतिथ्य स्वीकार करने के लिए कोटि कोटि अभिवादन, अभिनंदन एवं सहृदय धन्यवाद करते हैं। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
आपके प्रेरणादायी शब्दों के लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद श्री ओमकार नाथ जी। देवी और सज्जनों, डॉक्टर S.K. नंदा जो कि सेवा निवृत्त IAS अपने सेवा के कार्यकाल में गुजरात सरकार में विभिन्न विभागों हेल्थ, टूरिज्म, फॉरेस्ट, एनवायरनमेंट, फाइनेंस जैसे विभिन्न विभागों में अपनी सेवाएं उन्होंने प्रदान की हैं। गुजरात इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ एमेच्योर रेडियो के माननीय चेयरमैन माननीय डॉक्टर S.K. नंदा जी से अब मैं सविनय अनुरोध करूंगी आपके संबोधन के लिए। डॉक्टर S.K. नंदा।
First of all, a grand and great welcome to all our participants from different parts of India here in Gandhinagar. Though it's Gandhinagar, it's actually Ahmedabad. For the first time we are doing it in Ahmedabad. We had the occasion to do it twice in Gandhinagar, once in Rajkot and now in Ahmedabad. And on this occasion, our esteemed Minister Telecommunications Devusinh Chauhan ji, my colleagues Radhakishan, Mr. Sahu, who is the operator, the owner, the man who is the driving wheel of this entire city campus, Science City campus, and who are all involved with the HAMS, like Mr. Pandya, Balera ji, and all those who are involved in the interfraternity of HAMS, and the person who has come along with the minister and as a part of the entire HAM festival, Mr. Yadav, who just spoke before me. They add credibility to the entire show today. In fact, the HAM, which actually started with Hurj, Armstrong and Marconi, and also interpreted as help for mankind, help all mankind, took off in 1921 with only one single operator, and his name was Bupte. In the same year, there was another addition called Mukul Bose. It started the two-way communication. In 1921, there were only two people, and all were Britishers. Gradually, the population went up to 30, 35, and soon after, when there was no growth in that period, and the Second World War started, all the licenses were cancelled, withdrawn. There was a break in the entire HAM festival or the HAM movement. And again, when the Mahatma Gandhi's movement for non-cooperation took place, it was the HAM which also started a very big work for the Indian freedom fighters. Probably people know or not, but I would like to say, it was the HAM which started, that is called the Azad Hind radio. What you call the Azad Hind radio was nothing but a manifestation of the ham radio. And these Azad Hind radio was banned, and after that they took help from some fellow in Mumbai to continue the movement, and because all the sets were seized, and these ham from Mumbai and Calcutta, they continued the struggle till we got independent. And after the independence, today, as Mr. Yadav says in front of our esteemed minister, around 36,000 people today are ham. We have been thinking that how these ham stations, we are also operating on a scientific promotion of a scientific temper among the youth of India. That is our main goal. Now coming to Gujarat and our ham festival here, I have a feeling that all of you are taken care of well, and surely Gujarat never spares any opportunity to see that people are not taken care of. The hospitality is dumped on them. And any other issues are there, till the time you are here, till the time the ham festival continues tomorrow, please feel free to be in touch with our secretary, with our organizers. They will try to help you out in every possible manner. As far as the Gujarat chapter is concerned of the ham, as you know, those who are old or those who are completely new, they may not be knowing, but the old people generation, we started our first intervention in 1996 in that Amarnath Yatra tragedy, where myself and Hyderabad people were there in Srinagar. And not only we took care of Gujarat, but also we took a large section of people from Andhra, Telangana, Kerala and Tamil Nadu, because there was the language problem which they had. And we had to take it in English, convert it into their language, because we had some two language. One was in Telugu, one was in Tamil. And we relayed it to their governments. In 1998, super cyclone in Kandla was another testing ground for us. 1999 was the super cyclone in Odisha. 2001, it was the earthquake in Gujarat. 2005, it was the tsunami in Tamil Nadu and Andaman. All these occasions, we, our helicopters, our people, our sets, they tried their best to help out. Of course, people from Hyderabad and other hams from India were also there. I will not take the singular share of the credit, but definitely Gujarat hams were all ever ready to go ahead, and there was no kind of delay or reluctance not to go, including our women force. The women who are also license holders, they were also joining the entire movement to see that we are able to help them in kind. Now, in the recent past, this cyclone which took place in Gujarat, we also try to help the government. But in addition to only helping on certain occasions, I would like, and I will request all of you here, it is not an occasion-oriented intervention which we should do. HAM should be a movement. HAM should be a daily activity. HAM should be a part of the school curriculum. HAM should be a part of the brainstorming of the children. HAM should be a part of scientific quest. It should be a part of the entire regeneration of the brain, to see that some kind of electronic sense, some kind of engineering ability and acumen is built up during the youthful days, during the starting phase of the children in particular. We are all aged people, you are all adults, but this has to pass down to the younger generation, to the school generation, like it has happened in Japan. So all of us have to dedicate ourselves to see, and our minister has a commitment to see that if whatever is possible is done, we should translate this into action. But in your own states also, you should also put a lot of frontal efforts to see that we are able to get through this, so that our entire festival leads into some actionable progress. Today, we will have some cultural events. We'll have some lucky draws of certain VHF sets. And Genophore, who is there on my extreme left, he should be able to show you something about the long distance. I will not reveal now what you should be able to, what you will be showing to them. But this will be some of the new manifestations, and you can all share your experiences. And let us end up in some creative solutions which can integrate the hardware and the software for tomorrow to see that HAM takes another jump. Like the person who came from our foreign country, he has been able to show that certain progress has taken place, particularly in their own country. In the same way, we should be able to have some integration to show that HAMs are capable of doing it. Government can do their best to help them out. You again a last and a very warm welcome to all of you for having come in big number. It's one of the record numbers today of registration which has been in this place. You will enjoy the campus, a beautiful hospitality is waiting everywhere. And one of the great things is that you will be able to see the Science City, which is one of our greatest achievements of this state, in fact in the nation, one of the best campuses. And you will be able to, other than whenever you are free, you can always visit certain portions of the Science City to see that how children are taking it, how schools are visiting it, and how government is acting on it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your thoughtful and inspirational words. And ladies and gentlemen, we now request honorable dignitaries on the stage to kindly unveil and release the souvenir of HAMFEST India 2023. सादर अनुनय है मंचासीन महानुभाव से कि अपने कर कमलों से HAMFEST India 2023 के इस सोविनियर का कृपया विमोचन करें. It includes messages from leaders and inspirational articles pertaining to ham radio. Let's all have a big round of applause. हैम रेडियो से जुड़े प्रेरणा रूप लेख और महानुभावों के प्रेरणादायी संदेश इस सोवेनियर में आलेखित है, अंकित है. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सभी महानुभावों का. देवी और सज्जनों, हैम रेडियो के क्षेत्र में कई सकारात्मक परिवर्तन जिनके मार्गदर्शन में किए गए, फास्ट, सरल और ऑनलाइन प्रक्रिया को आपके मार्गदर्शन में प्रोत्साहन मिला, देश में संचार प्रणाली और प्रकल्पों की उन्नति और सुचारू अमलवारी के लिए जो हमेशा प्रयासरत एवं कटिबद्ध है, ऐसे माननीय केंद्रीय संचार राज्य मंत्री श्री देवसिंह चौहान जी से अब विनम्र अनुनय करते हैं आपके संबोधन के लिए. जोरदार तालियों से हम स्वागत करें माननीय केंद्रीय मंत्री जी का.
सबने नमस्कार. हैमफेस्ट इंडिया 2023 ની आज के इस अवसर पर मंचासीन हैमफेस्ट इंडिया के चेयरमैन डॉक्टर एस.के. नंदा जी, को चेयरमैन श्री राधा कृष्णन जी, श्री प्रवीण वालेरा जी, श्री पंड्या जी, ओमकारनाथ यादव जी, श्री जेनोफेर बुजवाल जी, मेरे सामने पूरे भारत से आए सभी हैम परिवार के आदरणीय हैम्स अधिकारीगण, मैं हेमफेस्ट इंडिया 2023 के इस अवसर पर बतौर मंत्री और गुजरात के स्थानिक सिटीजन की हैसियत से आप सबका स्वागत करता हूँ। मुझे बताया गया कि आज करीब करीब 800 के आसपास हैम्स को आज हमने इनवाइट किया था, लेकिन अभी रिसेंटली बहुत सारे लोग आए और ये 1000 तक हैम्स आज इस हॉल में उपस्थित है। मुझे ये बताते हुए बहुत गर्व और खुशी महसूस होती है कि हैम्स एक ऐसा कम्युनिटी है जब पूरे मानव जात पर कहीं आपत्ति हो और सारी सिस्टम अगर कहीं फेल हो जाती हैं। यहाँ अभी डॉक्टर एस.के. नंदा ने कई अपने अनुभव शेयर किया है हम सब के बीच कि उन्होंने अमरनाथ यात्रा से लेकर कौन सी आपदा में कैसा काम किया है, जैसे जैसे डिजास्टर होता है हैम्स कैसे काम करते हैं। तब मैं ये गर्व के साथ कहता हूँ कि टेक्नोलॉजी की कोई भी सिस्टम फेल होती है कहीं भी, लेकिन मानव जात की मदद के लिए हमारे हैम्स हमेशा तैयार रहते हैं। और भारत का इतिहास में जब भी ऐसी घटनाएं हुई, जब भी तौता या बिपरजॉय आया, कई ऐसे अर्थक्वेक आए, ऐसे अवसर पर हैम्स ने बहुत सारा काम किया। और ये सारा हैम्स का ये कम्युनिटी है। मैं ऐसा मानता हूँ कि उनके लिए हमारे विभाग ने जो रिफॉर्म्स आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी, आदरणीय हमारे कैबिनेट मिनिस्टर अश्विनी जी वैष्णव जी के मार्गदर्शन में हमने किया है, उस रिफॉर्म से हमने इस विभाग ने काफ़ी रिफॉर्म्स करके हैम्स को बढ़ावा देने के लिए, हैम्स का एक्सपेंशन हो, इसके लिए बहुत सारा काम किया है। गुजरात में तो हम साक्षी हैं कि डॉक्टर एस.के. नंदा और राधा कृष्णन जी और वालेरा जी ने और पंड्या जी की टीम ने करीब करीब गुजरात में जब भुज में अर्थक्वेक आया तब से लेकर आज तक 20-22 साल से हैम्स परिवार को संभाला भी है, मार्गदर्शन भी किया है और उसका प्रचार प्रसार के लिए भी काम किया है। और इसी दिशा में आज ये हैमफेस्ट गुजरात में हो रहा है। हमारे यशस्वी प्रधानमंत्री, विश्व के सर्वाधिक लोकप्रिय नेता आदरणीय मोदी जी ने इस दिशा में हमें मार्गदर्शन भी किया है, क्योंकि पहले आफ्टर ब्रिटिश राज के बाद हम अपने पास कहीं ना कहीं कंट्रोल रखते थे। हम रेडियो का भी लाइसेंस देते थे, हम साइकिल का भी लाइसेंस देते थे, क्योंकि हम उस सिस्टम से आए थे जिस सिस्टम ने पूरे भारतवर्ष को कंट्रोल किया था। उस सिस्टम में बहुत कम लोग थे, लेकिन उसने अपनी सिस्टम की जाल ऐसी बिछाई थी कि कहीं ना कहीं उसका कंट्रोल रहता था। लेकिन आदरणीय मोदी जी ने इस सिस्टम को अलग से चेंज करके सिटीजन सेंट्रिक एक परफॉर्मेंस वाली गवर्नमेंट कैसे काम कर सकती है, वो भी रिफॉर्म के साथ परफॉर्म करने का हमें ईज ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस, ईज ऑफ लिविंग, सिटीजन सेंट्रिक गवर्नमेंट के सेंटर में रखते हुए जो रिफॉर्म्स हर क्षेत्र में किया है, वैसा ही रिफॉर्म्स हमने हमारे डीओटी विभाग ने डब्ल्यूपीसी में किया है। डब्ल्यूपीसी का रिफॉर्म्स के चलते अभी गुजरात का फिगर मुझे हमारे ओमकार नाथ जी बता रहे थे, यादव जी, कि आपने जो सरल संचार किया, इसके चलते इस साल करीब 500 से अधिक हैम्स के लिए एग्जामिनर अप्लाई हुए और 350 लोगों ने एग्जाम क्लियर कर दिया, उनका सर्टिफिकेट भी मिल गया। तो ये, और हमारा लक्ष्य तो बहुत बड़ा है। आज हम करीब इस देश में 40,000 के आसपास हैम्स, हमारे अभी राधा कृष्णन जी बता रहे थे कि सर हमारे गुजरात के 18,000 गांव हैं और ऐसी आपदा में, इमरजेंसी में हर गांव में एक हैम्स होना चाहिए। तो हम सोच लीजिए, अगर गुजरात में 18,000 गांव में एक हैम्स होना है, मतलब 18,000 गुजरात में होना है, तो इस देश के 6 लाख से अधिक गांव है, हर गांव में हमें हम पहुंचाना है। जापान में 1 लाख तक हेम्स, अभी नंदा साहब और वगैरह बता रहे थे कि जापान में 1 लाख से अधिक हेम्स है। तो हमारे देश में भी हेम्स की आवश्यकता, जो हम समझते हैं कि हर क्षेत्र में हेम्स कितना उपयोगी होता है। अभी अभी राधा कृष्णन जी शेयर करते थे कि हम अर्ली मॉर्निंग में, सुबह में एवरी डे, हमारे सेक्टर 27 में गांधीनगर में ऑफिस है और मॉर्निंग में सबसे बात करते हैं, और यहाँ तक कि हम हर कोने में बात करते हैं, और कभी कभी तो हम यूरोप तक बात करते हैं इंटरनेट के जरिए, हर मॉर्निंग में बात करते हैं। तो ये हेम्स की, और उन्होंने एक विशेष बात की कि हम फील्ड डे बनाते हैं। तो फील्ड डे के लिए हम हर गांव परिवार के साथ कभी पावागढ़ चले गए, कभी जूनागढ़ चले गए, और परिवार में सबको इंटरेस्ट हो, बच्चों को भी साइंस टेक्नोलॉजी में इंटरेस्ट हो, इसीलिए हम ये वॉकी टॉकी लेकर, अपना एंटेना लेकर हम खड़े हो जाते हैं और बात करते हैं। तो मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि टेक्नोलॉजी चाहे कितनी भी बदल जाए, लेकिन इमरजेंसी में कोई टेक्नोलॉजी काम करने के लिए सक्षम है तो वो हमारा हैम है। तो हैम की वो शक्ति को हम समाज जीवन में कैसे उपयोगी करें, समाज के लिए, समाज के हित में, मानव जात के हित में हम इस हैम को ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा उपयोग करें। जैसे कि WPC में हमने रिफॉर्म्स किया, हम सब जानते हैं कि पहले ये वो कंट्री था जहाँ जब स्पेक्ट्रम एलोकेशन होता था तब हमने स्कैम भी देखा है। अभी अभी रिसेंटली हमने 5G का ऑक्शन किया, और 5G का ऑक्शन किया टोटली फेसलेस किया। यहाँ तक कि इंडस्ट्री लिस्ट के मुखिया ने भी बोला कि 30 साल के इतिहास में सुबह में, मॉर्निंग में हमने स्पेक्ट्रम के लिए अप्लाई किया, और शाम को फेसलेस, किसी को मिलने की आवश्यकता नहीं, और हमको स्पेक्ट्रम अलॉटमेंट लेटर मिल गया। ये हमारा WPC रिफॉर्म्स कर सकता है। आपको भी इस रिफॉर्म का फ़ायदा मिल सकता है, और आने वाले समय में और हम रिफॉर्म्स करेंगे जो सिटीजन सेंट्रिक हो गए, हेम सेंट्रिक हो गए। हम चाहते हैं कि हेम का व्याप हर गांव तक पहुंचे, और हेम एक ऐसी सुविधा है, और हम ये भी चाहते हैं कि बच्चे को आने वाले समय में, जो अभी अभी रिसेंटली बताया गया, डॉक्टर SK नंदे जब हम बात कर रहे थे तब बोल रहे थे कि सिलेबस में इसके बारे में बच्चा जब पढ़ता है, साइंस और टेक्नोलॉजी में इंटरेस्ट हो, इसीलिए प्रारंभ से ही प्राइमरी और सेकेंडरी में भी इसके बारे में पढ़ाया जाए। तो इसके लिए मैं भी चाहता हूँ कि सरकार, और चाहे वो स्टेट गवर्नमेंट हो या सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट है, वो भी इस दिशा में सोचेंगी, और हमारी आने वाली पीढ़ी में हेम्स का इतना ज़्यादा फैलाव होगा, हेम्स का इतना बड़ा रीच होगा कि कहीं भी अगर डिजास्टर होता है, कहीं भी मानव जात के लिए कहीं भी आवश्यकता होगी, तो हमारा हेम्स हमेशा वहाँ पहुँचेगा। और हेम्स की टीम हमेशा एक तरीके से जो समाज के लिए काम करती आ रही है, वो और अच्छे से काम करे, यही मेरी शुभकामना है। आप सब गुजरात में हैं तो गुजरात का आतिथ्य भाव स्वीकार करें, और गुजरात का आतिथ्य भाव तो हमेशा अच्छा रहा है। और अंत में आप सबको मेरी ओर से 73।
आपके अनन्य प्रोत्साहन और मार्गदर्शन के लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद माननीय मंत्री जी आपका। और अब मैं अनुरोध करूंगी चेयरमैन GIAR डॉक्टर SK नंदा सर से कि माननीय मंत्री जी का मोमेंटो अर्पण कर इस अवसर पर अभिवादन करें और हमारा आदर भाव प्रकट करें। आइए हम भी बहुत बहुत तालियों से माननीय मंत्री जी की आज की इस विशेष उपस्थिति का अभिवादन करें, सम्मान करें। थैंक यू सो मच। और अब मैं अनुरोध करूंगी को कन्वीनर श्री प्रवीण वालेरा जी से स्वागत करके आज के इस अवसर पर सभी महानुभावों का आभार प्रकट करें। आभार अभिव्यक्ति के लिए श्री प्रवीण वालेरा।
नमस्कार, वंदे मातरम। आदरणीय मंचस्थ आज के हमारे अतिथि माननीय मंत्री श्री देवसिंह चौहान साहब, हमारे लिए प्रिविलेज और प्राउड है कि आज हैम रेडियो के हैमफेस्ट के इनॉग्रल सेरेमनी में हमारे ही डिपार्टमेंट के मिनिस्टर हमारा यहाँ दायित्व निभा रहे हैं। वी आर सो थैंकफुल टू यू सर फॉर गिविंग अस योर प्रेस्टिजियस टाइम। सर ने सही बताया, रिफॉर्म्स बहुत ही अच्छे हुए हैं। मैं मेरा खुद का अनुभव कह सकता हूँ कि मैंने जब WPC में लाइसेंस के लिए एग्ज़ाम दिया था 1979 में, एंड आई गॉट माई लाइसेंस इन 1982 और आज ये लाइसेंस कुछ ही दिनों में मिल जाता है। सो दिस ऑल इज रिजल्ट ऑफ द रिफॉर्म्स टेकन बाय द WPC अंडर हिज टेन्योर। I am thankful to our chairman, founder and visionary chairman Dr. S.K. नंदा साहब। उनकी जो भी मार्गदर्शन हमें मिला है उसकी वजह से आज GIR की जो 2 डेकेड की जर्नी है वो भली भांति लोगों तक भी पहुंची और हमने भी उसका अच्छे से लुत्फ लिया है। हमने जो भी डिजास्टर हुए जहां भी टीम भेजना होगा तो ये नंदा साहब का ही इनिशिएटिव होता है। So we are so proudful to have such a visionary chairman with us. We are proud for our vice chairman. नंदा साहब का ड्रीम एग्जीक्यूट करने वाले ई राधा कृष्ण सर है, क्योंकि नंदा सर ने हमको मार्गदर्शन दिया, बट जो GIR का प्लान जो एग्जीक्यूट किया वो राधा कृष्ण साहब के एक्सपीरियंस, उनकी जो भी गाइडेंस मोटिवेशन है हम ये कर रहे हैं। तो आई एम वेरी थैंकफुल to Radha Krishna Sahab to be part of this inaugural ceremony. Dr. Narottam Sahu, he is advisor, Science Council, also he is leading Guj Coast. जब हमने ये प्रस्ताव रखा कि हम HAMFEST करना चाहते हैं, इमीडिएटली उन्होंने कहा कि वेन्यू एंड स्पॉन्सरशिप गुज कोस्ट करेगा। तो हमें कुछ मांगने की ज़रूरत नहीं पड़ी, उससे ज़्यादा नरोत्तम साहू साहब का हमें सपोर्ट रहा है। तो वी आर थैंकफुल फॉर यू एंड योर सपोर्ट सर। माय डियर फ्रेंड एंड मोटिवेटर, हमारे सबके लाइफलाइन एंड बैकबोन डॉक्टर जगदीश पंड्या VU2 JGI। GIR की जो गाड़ी चल रही है तो उसका इंजन डॉक्टर जगदीश पंड्या साहब है। तो वी आर थैंकफुल फॉर योर ऑलवेज मोटिवेशन एंड गाइडेंस। मिस्टर जिनोफर भुजवाला, आतस ग्रुप ऑफ कंपनीज, बट he is not there on the stage for his sponsorship, but he is a good genuine ham VU2 JJJ, and he has also joined us in the journey of GIR right from the beginning. तो जिनोफर जी, मैं आपका भी बहुत दिल से अभिवादन करता हूँ। हमारे बीच ओमकार जी जो DOT से आए हैं, डेप्यूटी वायरलेस एडवाइज़र, उन्होंने दिल्ली में बैठे बैठे भी GIR का काफ़ी काम आसान कर दिया है। ट्रूली स्पीकिंग कि उनका जो भी सपोर्ट रहा है डिपार्टमेंट का हमारे लिए बहुत ही मोटिवेटिव रहा है। सो थैंक यू वेरी मच ओमकार जी। और ये सब से आगे आप लोग सब बहुत ही धन्यवाद के आभारी है, जिन्होंने इतनी सारी संख्या में रजिस्ट्रेशन किया, यहाँ तक आए। हमारे कुछ फ्रेंड्स इन ग्रुप्स लाइक दिल्ली से बहुत सारे हैं से, विजयवाड़ा से बहुत सारे हैं से, आंध्र प्रदेश, तेलंगाना, महाराष्ट्र से भी काफ़ी हैम्स है। तो और 7 इंटरनेशनल हैम्स भी आज यहाँ आए हुए हैं। और सबसे बुजुर्ग मस्कत से अल्फा 41 लिमा डेल्टा वालिद साहब, मैं उनसे गुजारिश करूँगा ये मंच पे आए और उनका एक जेस्टर है मिनिस्टर साहब के लिए, और हमें भी बहुत आनंद है. वी वेलकम आवर वालिद काका फॉर प्लीज गिव अ राउंड ऑफ एप्लॉज फॉर हिम. Thank you very much, friends from media fraternity, इलेक्ट्रॉनिक एंड प्रिंट मीडिया से आए हुए मीडिया फ्रेंड्स को भी मैं अभिवादित करता हूं फॉर कवरिंग दिस हैमफेस्ट इंडिया. हैमफेस्ट इंडिया से जुड़े हुए आज के इनॉग्रल सेरेमनी में जुड़े हुए मेरे सभी कमेटी मेंबर्स जिन्होंने भी सपोर्ट किया ये इवेंट के लिए, सबका मैं थैंकफुल हूं. थैंक यू, धन्यवाद.
Good morning, everybody here. My name is Mohib, and my colleagues, Alpha 41 Lima Delta Walid. We landed yesterday in Delhi, and same day we came here in Ahmedabad. Really, we are very surprised to see the organization and the committee hospitality. I congratulate all the ham radio friends in India here to receive us, and we don't have any word to say thanks. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mohib, for your words of gratitude. और इसी के साथ ये इनॉग्रल सेशन हम यहाँ पे समाप्त करते हैं. टेक्निकल सेशन के लिए हम आगे बढ़ेंगे और अभी मैं अनुरोध करूँगी माननीय मंत्री जी और महानुभावगण से कि कृपया एग्जीबिशन का उद्घाटन करने के लिए कृपया प्रस्थान करें. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आप सभी का. वेलकम वंस अगेन टू हैमफेस्ट इंडिया 2023.
અંદામાન નિકોબાર સુધી પણ આ હેમ રેડિયોની ઇમરજન્સી કોમ્યુનિકેશનની સેવા આપી છે. એક પ્રકારે એમેચ્યોર રેડિયો એક કોમ્યુનિકેશન ક્ષેત્રનો એક એવો રેડિયો છે કે જ્યાં ચોક્કસ ફ્રિકવન્સી ડિઝાસ્ટર હોય ત્યારે કામ આપે છે. ત્યારે માનવજાતની સેવા માટે આ એક સમૂહ જેને અમે હેમ કહીએ છીએ એ દેશમાં લગભગ 35,000થી વધારે આપણા સમયમાં આની સંખ્યા વધ્યા અને એક પ્રકારે જાગૃતિ આવે છે જે સાયન્સ એન્ડ ટેકનોલોજી ભારતીય સરકારે એન્જિનિયર ક્ષેત્રમાં રેડિયોના ક્ષેત્રમાં ધ્યાને રાખીને સમાજ સેવા માટે જાતની સેવા માટે ઇમરજન્સીમાં કામ કેવી રીતે કરી શકાય એ માટેની જાગૃતિ માટે દસ્તાવેજ છે. ગુજરાતમાં પણ આ ત્રીજો આદરણીય કલેક્ટર સાહેબ થાય છે. આવા ગેધરિંગથી એકબીજાની સાથે નોલેજ શેરિંગની સાથે ટેકનોલોજીની ત્યારે
અમે મંત્રીના સ્ટાફમાંથી તમારે કરવું પડે
રેડિયો સાથે તરીકેનો હોય છે ત્યારે એક વિશેષ રેડિયો માટે જે લાઇસન્સ માટે એપ્લાય કરનાર એપ્લાય થયા પછી એક્ઝામ એ એક્ઝામનું રિઝલ્ટ 3 થી 4 વર્ષ પછી એને સરળતા એવી કરી કે ઓનલાઈન એક્ઝામ આપે છે. પહેલાં એક્ઝામનું સેન્ટર ખોલાતા પછી તો 27થી વધારે એક્ઝામના સેન્ટર સેમ ડે તમે એક્ઝામ આપી શકો. તમારે ફીસ હોય એ ફીસ પણ અપલોડ કરે તમે ડિજિટલી પેમેન્ટ કરી શકો છો. છે અને એ સર્ટિફિકેટ તાત્કાલિક તમને મળી જાય છે કે રીતે આ વ્યવસ્થામાં સરળતાથી અને એક્ઝામ આપ્યા પછી એને લાયસન્સની પણ એક મર્યાદા હોય કે 3 વર્ષ અમે એનું રિન્યુઅલ કરવા માટે પણ ઘણીવાર ભારતીય સરકાર ભૂમિકા નથી કરતી પણ એની વ્યવસ્થાઓ નહોતી કે એને રિન્યુઅલ પણ નહોતા કરી શકતા અમે ઇમિડિયેટલી રિન્યુઅલ નહીં એને રિન્યુઅલ ફ્રી પણ કર્યું જસ્ટ એને ઇન્ફોર્મ કરવા માટે મારી આ મુદત આપ પૂરી કરી છે મને રિન્યુઅલ એટલે એવું કંઈ એપ્લાય કરે ઓનલાઈન કે એના રિન્યુઅલ પણ થઈ જાય છે આવા સરળ નિયમોના કારણે વ્યવસ્થાઓ ઘટતી આપી છે આપણે ત્યાં બાળક ચાઇલ્ડ હોય અથવા ભણે ત્યારથી તેને સાયન્સ અને ટેકનોલોજીમાં રસ પડે તમે જાણતા હશો કે આજકાલ કોમ્પિટિટિવ બહુ ઘણી તો આપણે યુવાનો પણ અલગ પ્રકારની ગૌરવ ફીલ તો એ બાળકની ક્યુરિયોસિટી અને બાળકને વધારે સાયન્સ પ્રત્યેનો રસ જાગે એ માટે નાનપણથી જ એના સિલેબસમાં જો કોમ્યુનિકેશનની આ સિસ્ટમને ભણાવવામાં આવે તો આગળ જતાં એના શોખને સમાજ સેવાની નવી સક્ષમતા પણ આપી છે
હિન્દી હોય તો આપણે લેવું જોઈએ મારે
હિન્દી આપણે HAMFEST 23 के आज के अवसर पर आज आप सबने देखा कि HAMFEST के लिए पूरे भारतवर्ष से कई हैम जिसे हम बोलते हैं कि जिसके पास हैम के लाइसेंस जो हैम रेडियो पे सक्रिय है ऐसे हैम्स को आज इन्वाइट गुजरात में किया है और जिन्होंने किया है वो हमारे डॉक्टर SK नंदा जी जो गुजरात के सिविल सर्विस कैडर के सीनियर अधिकारी भी रहे और 2001 से राधाकृष्णन जी और SK नंदा जी ने HAMFEST की दिशा में करीब 20 साल से अधिक काम किया है अपनी एक टीम तैयार की जिस टीम ने गुजरात में आपदा के समय डिजास्टर के समय भी काम किया है और देश के किसी भी कोने में जब जब आवश्यकता हुई भारत की गुजरात की इस टीम ने हमेशा उस दिशा में बहुत सारा कंट्रीब्यूशन किया है मानव जात की सेवा के लिए और HAMFEST गुजरात में ये आज तीसरी बार हुआ है तत्कालीन मुख्यमंत्री आदरणीय मोदी जी जब गुजरात के चीफ मिनिस्टर थे और चेयरमैन SK नंदा जी और को चेयरमैन राधाकृष्णन जी की टीम ने भी ये HAMFEST किया ये तीसरा HAMFEST के नेतृत्व में हुआ है और आज भारतवर्ष के करीब 1000 के आसपास HAMFEST गुजरात की धरती पर साइंस सिटी में आज आए 2 दिन का ये पूरा फेस्टिवल चलेगा नॉलेज शेयरिंग करेंगे कम्युनिकेशन में और भी जो टेक्नोलॉजी है जैसे अपनी के लिए एंटेना और एडवांस एंटेना के साथ एडवांस जो प्रोटोकॉल है अपने रूल्स और रेगुलेशन के हिसाब से अपनी जो रेडियो पे बात करते हैं और जो हैम पे बात करते हैं उसका भी प्रोटोकॉल रहता है उसके लिए भी परस्पर बात करेंगे और मैं ये मानता हूँ कि ये आने वाले समय में भारत के हर गांव तक हैम्स को तैयार करेंगे और इस गांव में अगर हैम्स होता है तो इमरजेंसी में जब बाकी सारे सिस्टम फेल हो जाते हैं तो उनसे हम एक दूसरे के साथ कम्युनिकेशन करके चाहे वो साइकिल चाहे डिजास्टर हो उसमें भारतवर्ष के हर नागरिक तक खाने की हैम्स की ये व्यवस्था हम सब जानते हैं कि ये आदरणीय मोदी जी के सिटीजन सेंट्रिक सेवा इज ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस के चलते हमेशा ट्रांसफॉर्म रिफॉर्म और रिफॉर्म का सिद्धांत के साथ काम कर रही है WPC रिफॉर्म से हमारा विभाग के ऐसा रिफॉर्म से जहाँ जो इस लाइसेंस की एग्जाम की जो पद्धति थी उसको हमने सरल की पहले की एग्जाम के रिजल्ट भी करीब 2 दिन से करते थे आज इमीडिएट हम जैसे ही एग्जाम होता है और एग्जाम के बाद तुरंत रिजल्ट भी निकल करते हैं रिजल्ट के बाद उसको सर्टिफिकेशन भी तुरंत भेज जाते हैं तो एक तरीके से ये सिम्प्लीफाई करने के बाद बाकी लोगों में उसका एंगेजमेंट बनता है और लोगों इस दिशा में सुविधा मिलती है देश ने 10 साल से आदरणीय मोदी जी के नेतृत्व एक तरीके से सिटीजन सेंट्रिक सरकार के साथ भारतवर्ष के स्वतंत्रता के बाद के इतिहास में कई डायनेस्टी इम्पीचमेंट की राजनीति ने इस देश को बहुत नुकसान पहुंचाया और इसी मानसिकता के कारण कांग्रेस आज में जिस स्थिति में हम देख सकते हैं तब आदरणीय मोदी जी के 10 साल के नेतृत्व एक जिस तरीके से जिस नेता ने और जिस नियत से के साथ जिस नीति के साथ चाहे वो गरीब कल्याण का काम सुशासन का काम देश की आर्थिक नीति विदेश नीति शिक्षा नीति हर दिशा में जो काम किया और इमरजेंसी में जैसे दुनिया के विकसित देश जब फेल हुए कोविड के दरमियान तो समय भी भारत में अपनी वैक्सीन बना के और डिजिटली उसका सर्टिफिकेशन भी मिले और एक तरीके से सर्व मिला और पूरे भारतवर्ष की जो फिलोसॉफी रही है कि हम सबको अपना परिवार समझते हैं तब अन्य देशों में उन्होंने वैक्सीन पहुँचाई दवाइयाँ पहुँचाई और आज हम देख रहे हैं कि भारत अपना उस दिशा में है जो भारत में आप विश्व में गुरु की दिशा में चाहे वो क्लाइमेट चेंज की बात हो चाहे G20 की बात हो जिस तरीके से हमने देखा है कि देश में एक परफॉर्म करने वाली सरकार और विशेष तौर पे गरीब कल्याण आज 10 साल के शासन में गरीब कल्याण 13.5 करोड़ लोग गरीबी रेखा से बाहर निकले न्यू मिडिल क्लास की तरफ जो एडवांस इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर बना चाहे रेल रोड एयरपोर्ट की बात करें और जो टेक्नोलॉजी की बात करें साइंस की बात करें हर दिशा में ये भारत वो है जिसका सॉफ्ट पावर आज दुनिया देख रही है चंद्रयान जो दक्षिण पहला अगर किसी ने अपना यान पहुँचा है तो पूरे विश्व में भारत ने पहुँचा माननीय मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में भारत एक सशक्त भारत है और एक मजबूत भारत की दिशा में जो बढ़ रहा है अब चाहे वो राजस्थान का चुनाव मध्य प्रदेश का चुनाव मिजोरम का हो भारत के इस नेता के नेतृत्व में भारत के हर नागरिक अब इस दिशा में चल पड़े हैं जो सारी पॉलिटिक्स चाहे वोट बैंक की राजनीति थी सबको पीछे छोड़कर देश के लिए प्रगति के लिए वोट करने जा रही है और इस सारे चुनाव में हमारा निश्चित विजय होगा सबको
And you can see this extended emission coming from the center in the top plot, in the radio plot. This is from the magnetic belts which are surrounding Jupiter. So this was not visible in the optical frequencies, but it is now visible in the radio. So certainly it is important to study a source in different frequencies. Now similarly, a galaxy Centaurus A, you can see here in the left plot is what is observed using radio, and the right one is one which is using the optical telescope. And you can see that the center of the galaxy here is not very clearly seen in radio, but the jets which are coming out from the center are very clearly seen in radio. So there is some emission mechanism which is very much visible in the radio, which is completely not seen in optical or partially seen. So this is where the importance of a specific domain, specific wavelength of astronomy lies. So again, if you draw the similarity between the frequency bands, as we know that VHF, UHF, they start at 30 megahertz and at 3 gigahertz roughly. And we have these bands which are reserved for ham radio for this communication, like 50 to 54, 144 to 146, and 434 to 438. While these bands are licensed to ham radio, in radio astronomy, people want to look at a very wide range of frequencies. Right? It would be several hundred megahertz at say 400 megahertz center or 500 megahertz center frequency. And the reason why they want to observe on wider bandwidths, I will come to that in next few slides. So within radio band, as we move from different radio frequencies, like here we have very low frequencies in few hundred megahertz on my extreme left. And you can see that the elements which pick up the electromagnetic signal from the universe changes. So here you have a dipole, log periodic dipole, then you have parabolic dish. Here again there are dipoles but placed on the ground. These are also different types of dipoles at the top which are laid on ground. So this UHF, VHF band, within that also the sensing element changes with frequency and with the purpose of the astronomy that one wants to do. But further you can go to larger frequency, like the VLA, ALMA, these are all names of the telescopes, all the way up to optical. So you can go on the radio spectrum and you can see telescopes at each frequency band. And the difference you will see that at GMRT, which I will be talking about in detail, has mesh as a reflecting surface instead of a solid surface of the dish. Whereas as you go higher in the frequency, like the VLA, ALMA, these have solid surfaces as a reflecting surface. So what does a radio telescope do in principle? So as I told, it studies stellar objects, it studies stars, galaxies, pulsars, various supernovae. And what it primarily does is it measures power from a specific direction. What you want to see using a radio telescope is the signal which is coming from a specific direction in the sky, right? And at a range of frequencies. So if you just have a very simple block diagram of it, it would be an antenna, probably a dish because you want a directional antenna, and followed by an amplifier. Because these signals are very weak coming from long distances, and you want to convert that signal to a frequency which you can then use for detecting, so you convert it into baseband or IF, intermediate frequency, and then you use a power detector which basically measures the power of the incoming signal at different frequencies. So this is a very basic explanation of how a radio telescope receiver works. Now, if you see this signal which comes from the sky, it's basically noise. So if you plot this kind of signal which comes, you will see a completely random signal. And if you were to play this signal as it comes, I think it will sound something like this. So it's completely noise. Okay, so and the power of this signal is very low because it's coming from very huge cosmological distances. So the signal which is measured in a specific unit, very specific to radio astronomy, which is called Jansky, after the first person who found the radio waves from the universe. is a very small unit. 1 Jansky is 10 to the power minus 26 meter square per hertz, which is equal to minus 204 dBm. And 0 dBm is 1 milliwatt. So you can imagine how minus 204 dBm, how small or how faint a signal this is. And telescopes of the kind of GMRT that we'll talk about can detect signals which are up to micro Jansky levels. So 10 to the power minus 32 watts per meter square hertz is a kind of level that they detect. And to give you an example of what this unit looks like, the GSM handset that we have, it has a sensitivity up to minus 111 dBm. Right? If you take it over 200 megahertz and at 1.8 gigahertz frequency, so this comes out to be minus 101 dBm, whereas 1 Jansky is minus 204 dBm. So it is 93 dB below what a cell phone can detect. So it's really, really small. There are some powerful radio sources like the sun. When it's quiet, it is about 1000 Janskys. One solar flux unit is defined as 10 to the power 4 Jansky, and our Milky Way is about 10 to the power 6 Jansky in these frequencies, that is VHF, UHF bands. So one important thing in any radio astronomy instrumentation is the collecting area, the aperture. So here you can see on the left is one GMRT dish located, one of the 30 dishes of GMRT located near Pune, and you can see that the diameter of this dish is about 45 meters. And I have kept this drawing for a purpose. You can see that it is being painted, and you can see the humans on that scale, which are climbing up to paint the dish, so that you can get a perspective of the size of the antenna. And so this is very similar to collecting rainwater in a bucket, for example. You are collecting electromagnetic energy. The larger the aperture, the more you can collect, and the more sensitive one becomes to faint signals. Another important thing is that we know that these sources are huge. These galaxies are like huge in size, but they are at also huge distances from us. So the angular extent that they subtend to us is very small. So any telescope should have a very fine angular resolution. Now the angular resolution here is defined by, for a given wavelength, it's the size of the aperture that decides the angular resolution. So you can't build, so if you want to resolve a very fine source, you might have to build a 200 kilometer wide dish, which is practically not possible. So the technique which is regularly used here is that you have dishes which are spread in an area of 200 kilometers, for example, and you sample the signal coming from each of this dish, and then combine it in signal processing in such a way that you synthesize an aperture which is of the order of this size. So what happens is you can actually get a very fine angular resolution, and by fine angular resolution I mean it should be of the order of arc seconds, right? So just to give you a perspective, the moon as seen from Earth is half a degree, right? Is 31 arc minutes, and 1 arc minute is 60 arc seconds, and we want to go up to 1 arc second of resolution. So we need that kind of arrangement in telescope to be able to see finer objects. Now you will see two major types of radio telescopes. One of them is what is called the transit instrument, which forms a beam. This is like an antenna beam here. These are dipole antennas, log periodic dipole, and you can see a beam formed. And as the source rises and sets in the sky, it just measures the source parameters when it transits over the beam. Whereas there are other telescopes like the GMRT here, which are mounted in such a way that they can track the source from rise to set. And so you can observe the source for a very long duration, right away from when it rises to the time it sets. Now, a slight detour into the antennas. So, as you know that generally you might have seen most of the receiver sets having isotropic antenna, that they radiate same amount of power or they receive equal amount of power from all the directions. Now, most of the antennas used in radio astronomy are directional antennas because you want to get power from a certain direction. So you want the antenna to be highly directional. It should be sensitive to only a specific direction in the sky. So that's how the antennas are in radio astronomy. So a parabolic dish is one such example of a very highly directional antenna. A single dipole can also be made directional if you add more dipoles to it and make an arrangement such that you narrow the beam by combining more dipole elements. So even with the dipole, you can become more and more sensitive. You can increase the directivity of the Okay, so if we go to the signal processing now, what kind of receiver and signal processing systems we have? So any telescope you take, any radio telescope, an array telescope, which has an array of antennas, will look something like this. It will have a sensing element, an antenna, mostly a highly directional antenna, or a directional beam formed by combining various not so directional antennas like dipole. So here you do the first level of amplification right at the focus, because signal is weak, so the signal to noise ratio is quite poor. So you don't want to lose any further in terms of signal to noise ratio. So right at the focus, you amplify the signal. Then these signals are comfortably brought to a common location. This could be either by down converting them to some frequency or bringing the entire radio frequency, either through coaxial cables or through fiber optic cables. So GMRT uses fiber optic to bring all the signals to the central location, and that's where all the digital processing of the signals happen at a common location. So this is a general overall block diagram of things work. Now if you go into each detail of each system, so as I told that signals are weak, so we need either one single large dish, but then you won't get the angular resolution which you are getting from an array of antennas, because you combine them to form one single aperture which is wide enough. So you use array of dishes, which is done at GMRT, or you use array of dipoles. So if you talk about GMRT, it's an array of dish antennas, and all are identical. I again show the picture of GMRT dish with 45-meter diameter. And then you want to, the parabolic reflectors are just reflecting elements. So you want to get the electromagnetic energy, convert it to electrical signals. So that's what is done in the sensing element, which is sitting at the focus, which is shown below. This is one of the feeds, as we call it, feed elements, which has got a dipole at the center. If you can see, it's a cross dipole. And this is the 550 to 850 megahertz feed, which is located at the focus of the parabola. And that converts the electromagnetic signal into electrical signals. And then there is the low noise amplification of those signals to preserve the signal to noise ratio and to make sure that we get the desired sensitivity of the system. Yes, so the way it is implemented, as I said, at GMRT you can see now that when there is a reflection of sun from this mesh, you can see that there is a mesh here in the top picture. And mesh is fine for these wavelengths because it's small enough as compared to the wavelength of the signal. So it does not allow the wave to leak out on the other side, but it acts like a solid surface for that wave. So it just reflects to the focus. So again, I show the dipole here on the bottom left. You can see this is one of the dipole antennas, a λ/2 kind of dipole at about 50 centimeter kind of wavelength. And then you have this low noise amplifier. I have shown an example of a low noise amplifier chassis, how we make these amplifiers, small amplifiers, and into a proper chassis form. And these are all mounted on the focus of the parabola. And then an example of a filter chassis. This is a typical LC filter. I don't know how much of it is visible, but these are the trimmer units, and there are the air core inductors. And then if I show the footage of drone footage of how the feeds are located on the focus of the parabola. There are 4 feeds covering the GMRT frequency range of 130 to 1450 megahertz. And now you can see here that right now only one feed is focusing at the focus of the parabola. and the other 3 feeds which are away from it are the ones which are not right now active. And whichever band you want to observe, you just rotate and bring that feed onto the focus. And the signal here, the boxes which you see behind the feeds are the ones which contain the low noise amplifiers, and then along the sides the signal comes using low loss coaxial cables to the antenna base, from where it goes to the central location through optical fiber. So basic processing is that you send the signal from each of these antennas to a common location over optical fiber. Once you receive, you convert back the signal into electrical signal, do some conditioning like amplification, some filtering, and then this operation later is very similar to when you tune a radio. So for example, if you have this dial of ham radio, you can see that it's like tuning the system. You change the local oscillator frequency, you have a mixer which generates sum and difference of frequencies, and then you select the ones which you want to pass. So basically from a band of frequencies you tune into your band of interest and process the signal. And these systems are commissioned in the telescope in units like this, the chassis like this. So this very much works on the principle of frequency heterodyning, very similar to what we do in ham radio systems. Now, if you go a little more, and a few slides back I said that the purpose of the radio telescope is to measure power in a set of frequencies. So when you get the signal from any radio source in the sky, you receive it through multiple antennas which are looking at the same source, and they are tracking the source from rise to set. You have front-end systems which amplify, boost the signal, and then followed by conditioning the system. Then you digitize the signal, and what effectively you do is that you transform the signal from time domain to frequency domain, right? And then you compute the power, you measure the power of each of these frequency elements in that signal. That's where you hand over the signal to the astronomers, and then they do the further processing of those signals to do research. And I'll just highlight some of the challenges which one faces during this process. Is that the signals are very wide, and we know from basic signal processing that one needs to sample the signal at least twice its bandwidth. So in the case of GMRT, this processing comes out to be 800 megahertz, which is like effectively you are getting every sample of data at 1.25 nanoseconds. So this is very fast processing. And also the complexity of the algorithm which does all this conversion from time to frequency and measuring power grows as the square of the number of antennas. So if you have 30 antennas, the complexity is square of that. So 900 times what you would have if you had only one antenna to process. So that's the challenge. That's where parallel computing comes into picture, and that's what we do at GMRT. You can see this is a cluster of computers which uses the latest programmable chips and graphic processing unit. We split the computation load across multiple such compute nodes and do signal processing in real time. And this computation comes out to be 10 tera floating point, 10 into 10 to the power 12 floating point operations per second. And this cluster alone has a power consumption of about 20 kilowatt. So maintaining the GMRT is also a big challenge, because it's a telescope used by people all across the world, and the time of the telescope is allotted through competitive bidding of proposals. So we have to ensure that 26 antennas are working all the time in good condition, so that we can do good science for what it is proposed or for what is operational. So you can see here that all the electronics are in this feed system which we saw there. When there is some problem there, one has to go with a high lift platform here, and they have to repair it at the site. So this is one of the things, the operational aspects of GMRT. Other than that, you have to keep it, the upkeeping of the mechanical structure of the dish. So you can see here, people are painting this dish. It takes about 3 months to paint this huge dish, which is 125 tons of moving structure. And Another thing is the structural repairing of the dish as we age, as there is corrosion and problems of like that kind. So I'll show you a small video of how that is done using these high lift platforms. So this is the team which is repairing some of the structural elements of this antenna, and this is a part of the regular upkeeping of the system. So another thing which is also of interest to ham radio is the interference problem, which is very prominent in radio telescopes. As I said, these are passive receivers, so they just want to observe the band in as wide a range of frequencies as possible. So we are at these bands, we are mostly swamped by interference coming from air traffic control, from satellites, from automobile vehicular sparking. Most common is and most prominent is a power line, then cell phone, of course. So these are the most prominent sources of interference. But today I will go in detail about power line RFI because that's a problem also for the ham radio. So again, as I said earlier, that typically this kind of RFI comes from sparking on power lines, transformers, high tension lines in and around the GMRT array. And here you can see the time plot. So if you plot time and voltage in the plot as shown here, you can see that this type of interference is periodic, and these impulsive events which come, which are strong impulses in this time series plot, are coming from the sparking on the power line. So this particular, each of these high amplitude value, high voltage value is coming from the spark on the power line. And this repeats every 10 milliseconds. As you can see, this plot I have taken from ARRL site only, that there is this sine wave and the sparking happens in a way that there is a spark gap created, and when the potential crosses the potential of the breakdown voltage of spark, it just the dielectric breakdown of air, it just sparks. So it sparks in the positive half and negative half. So this is 20 millisecond, right, because of 50 hertz frequency. So this sparks every 10 millisecond, and you can see these sparks repeating in this 50 millisecond plot here. This is one time series taken at 325 megahertz of GMRT antenna. And if you could locate this, some of this would come from things like this, that there is this high tension line going and there is this wire which is just dangling and causing the spark. Another thing is the way things are connected. So you can see this is a very untidy way of connecting the fuse, which we see very regularly, that there is a stone hung here in this part. And these are the potential areas where one can see sparking. So a lot of this work has been done by the RFI team at GMRT, that locating potential sources of power line RFI, but there are too many. So sometimes you can go and you can address the problem, or else you have to do something within the signal processing too. So this is again the map of GMRT on the left. You can see that I have shown in red all the transformers, which are transformer settings, which are 11 kV transformers set around the central square region. And these are about 100 or 200 of them. And similarly, I have also shown in the southern arm of GMRT some antennas. So we keep a record of how many installations are there. And periodically we measure the interference coming from these lines, whether these insulators are bad or is there some sparking happening. Here in the second plot, you can see a person is measuring the interference coming from a transformer setup. And regular measurement through our own setup of log periodic antenna. You can see here, this is a substation in the background, and you can see the log periodic antenna in the front. And this is the way we keep measuring the antenna, the interference, and see what are the levels of interference and what actions have to be taken to reduce it. And one more thing here is that our own systems can cause interference. A lot of power supplies, laptops, are sources of broadband interference, including LED lamps. So we at observatory also make sure that our own systems are shielded well enough so that we are not the victim of our own interference, self-generated interference. So with that, what we have developed at GMRT is it's not possible to address the electrical faults on all the power lines or on the transmission lines, because there are too many to take care of, and it's just not practically possible. So we try to see if in our data, which is noise again here, time versus amplitude plot, the noise here in red is all good data, and the blue one is what is corrupted by power line RFI. So we have built a statistical technique which can detect these kind of power line interference and remove it and filter it much ahead in the receiver chain so that we can prevent the rest of the data from getting corrupted. So this is one such example of data without filter, which is in blue, and with filter, which is in red. And we have got good results from that technique. So now in few slides as I wind up, in radio telescopes there is also a lot of recent trend in looking at a larger part of the sky while you are observing. This is because many discoveries are serendipitous. Many discoveries need you to look at various sources while you are observing your primary source. So this is one example that if GMRT has only one beam in the sky, it can only look at one particular source while it is observing. But if we replace these feeds which I showed in the previous with an array of feeds like this, where each of this at the extreme right top plot, where each of this is a kind of dipole antenna, and if I mount it on the focus, I can actually produce many such independent beams as in the middle plot, and then I can watch the sky in many different directions. This adds to the survey speed of the telescope, and this is something very much trending in the world of radio astronomy instrumentation. And also what we do is that as we move on and as we build wideband receivers, we are also looking at various options where RF to digital is all into one single chip. So with that we also started using what we call the RF system on chip, or RF SoCs, which combines everything right away from RF. It does the digitization, filtering and digital logic on single silicon chip. So these are the trends, and we stack such boards as shown in the bottom. This significantly reduces our hardware and also the power consumption. So I think I would summarize in a few slides that you can do out of all this. Maybe you got some idea about how the radio telescope works, and at a very basal level how it works. And you can do some of these things yourself, because anyway you have been doing so much in the amateur ham radio side. So if you want to do a 21 centimeter hydrogen line, which is a very key thing observed by the telescope, you can do the first experiment, which would need only horn antenna amplifiers and an SDR kit. If you want to observe the sun, you can do using dish antenna and a satellite finder. These are all available online, many of these. You can, and then solar and planetary, there is a Radio Joe project from NASA. Then movement of Milky Way and galactic hydrogen, there have been recently some proposals. You can make your home-brewed horn and use it along with SDR. And sun and space weather monitoring can also be done. There is a eCallisto setup, which is an open source software hardware setup, along with log periodic antenna. So these kind of things you can build on your own, and you can do some preliminary radio astronomy observations with this. Okay, so I'll just summarize quickly what I said in all these slides, that there is some commonality between the ham radio and radio telescopes, particularly the VHF, UHF band. The most common things are the frequency, the RF receiver design, and the power line interference, which is a common problem. And so there is a scope for learning from each other and adopting concepts used successfully in some of these places. And you can also use some of these concepts, some of these ideas which I shared, in making your own small homebrewed telescope. And I think I would end there. I will show one more slide, which is a suggested reading material. But before that, I would like to acknowledge the HAMFEST 2023 organizing committee for giving me a chance to come here and talk in front of you. Also, VU to SPF, VU to MAU, and VU to UTZ for their cooperation and support. So these are some basic reading material which you can go through to understand this area of radio astronomy and radio astronomy instrumentation. Thank you.
Very nice talk, Kaushal bhai. Actually, it is so much connected with ham radio. We have seen that there are a lot of similarities with our receivers and the receivers used by them, except for the sensitivity, and they are looking at the very fine signal. So if there are any questions, we would be very happy to request Kaushal bhai to answer them. Any questions, please? There is a mic here.
Thank you very much for very detailed and informative information. I have two questions. One question could be of common interest to all. So you said the GSM phone has a sensitivity of minus 111 dBm. Now there are phones of 1,000 rupees and phones of 40,000 rupees and 80,000 rupees. I mean, do they really have variation into the sensitivity, or just the features because of which the cost increases?
Okay, I'll repeat what I understood. You are saying that the GSM sensitivity which I showed was...
I'm saying the cellular phone you talked about has a sensitivity of minus 111 dBm with 200 kilohertz of bandwidth.
Yes.
Okay. Now my question is of a common interest, that you get mobile phone into the market which is also of 1,000 or 1,500 rupees which the truck drivers carry with them, the feature phone. And then there are phones of 20,000 rupees, and then there are cell phones, mobile phones of 40,000, and there are cell phones of 80,000. I mean, the cost goes on. So do they really have the variation into sensitivity so much, or is it only because of the camera and video and because of that the cost goes on increasing? I mean, are the truck driver's cell phone worse, much more worse than the cell phone that some rich man is carrying?
Okay. Yeah, so
from the sensitivity point of view.
Yeah. So I think the sensitivity doesn't, I don't think it changes largely with the amount. What changes are the features. What changes are the number of SIM cards that you can put also. So that the number of receivers that you have on the same circuit, on the same PCB. And I think what would change this sensitivity would be probably the generations of the phone. So this is GSM, but if you go to maybe CDMA or 4G, that might change because they might have a different modulation, different scheme, which will allow them to even operate in lower SNRs.
So thank you very much. So which means essentially more or less they have the same range of operation, distance-wise. Okay. And the second question is, to keep this low noise amplifiers noise figure low, do you use cryogenic techniques, and what type of cryogenic techniques you use, if you use? Thank you.
Yeah, that is an interesting question. So in GMRT we don't use, these are room temperature LNAs, as we call them. We don't have any cooling of these LNAs. So these LNAs are by default, whatever is the best available in the market, we choose with the lowest noise figure. The reason why we don't go for cryogenic cooling, which other telescopes go, is that the frequencies at which we operate, we are more limited by the sky temperature. So the sky brightness itself is so large that the relative system noise doesn't contribute that much. But if you go beyond L band, like in C band or K band or KU band, your system noise starts mattering a lot. So that is more important. Cryogenic cooling is more important at higher frequencies, higher radio frequencies.
Yeah, so one more question from there.
Sir, in one of your slides, you are showing that one thin wire connecting some high tension electrical connection, and you said it is causing some sort of RF interference, right, sir?
Yes.
Okay, and now there is a stone also probably tied to that thin wire. Now, have you ever quantified what kind of interference it is causing and how you have resolved it?
Okay, so I don't know which slide you are talking about, but
if you go back,
yeah.
Yeah. Yes, yes,
This?
No, the next. No, not this. If you go advance.
You are saying this side?
Exactly, yes.
This one?
Yeah.
Yes.
So you said that there is a thin wire connecting the electric.
That's actually a fuse.
Yeah, that is called horn gap fuse.
Yeah.
Okay. So if it is causing RF interference, have you ever quantified this? If this is causing a problem of RF, have you been able to resolve this?
Yes, so there are two ways of resolving. That's what I was trying to tell. One thing is that there are too many transformers around. And generally when the signal is picked up, it might be coming through multipath propagation. So it might get reflected from somewhere. So from the telescope, we don't know exactly this transformer is causing the RFI. So we have to visit multiple transformers. From the intensity, we know that this is a closer transformer. And if the two nearby antennas are picking up the thing, then that means it is close by somewhere. We can, to some extent, do some kind of triangulation and find out that it's. But then we have to visit every antenna and measure it. So this is the example of the person going and measuring the interference at that site. And if we know that this is coming from here, we kind of correct it. We change it, we talk to the state electricity board, we get it corrected. But there are too many such installations. Every farm, everything outside will have a 11 kV to 440 volt conversion in the setup. And those are all potential sources of interference. So at what places will you go? So even if you, on a normal day, if you go and measure, you will get this signature in all the bands, right away from 130 to about 800, 850 megahertz. So this is coming from somewhere continuously, right? So we can cure if there is very strong thing coming and we can deal with it in one way. So that's one level of mitigation. But the more effective way of mitigation is to do it here in the signal processing. Because you know that this kind of outliers or events which are going above the noise are all coming from these sparking events. So just remove it in signal processing. Of course, the first one is much better because you are directly mitigating at the source. It's not always a practical solution.
So I think now we thank Kaushal Bhai for an excellent talk.
Thank you.
And really creating an interest in ham community about
Thank you.
About the astronomy. And in your souvenir, you have one article about making your own radio telescope. So that will help you if you want to ever go for that. So thank you, Kaushal Bhai, for a very fantastic presentation. And we want to present a memento. I request our senior ham, Mr. Vittal Bhai Ajmera, View 3, Victoria Delta Charlie, to do the honors for the GIR. So, Vittal Bhai, please. A memento on behalf of GIR to Kaushal Bhai by View 3 VDC, senior ham of GIR member.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vittal Bhai. Thank you, Kaushal Bhai, for your fantastic talk. So there are two announcements. One. Two announcements are there. One is draw. The draw for handy is just scheduled. Every hour we have promised. And second one is after lunch at 1:30 we are assembling again here. We have a very nice talk on a cobweb antenna by one of the experts in that field. So thank you very much, and let us invite for the draw. Oh, hot. View to Hotel Oscar Tango. View to Hotel Oscar Tango. If he is not present, then they will be forced. You are there? Where? View to Hotel Oscar Tango. Please come here. Happy to. So may I request Dr. Sheetal Punjani, view 3 Papa Juliet Sierra, to do the honors and present this this handy to Hotel Oscar Tango. Yeah, this is a handy VHF 2-meter handy. Yeah, please. He wants to say something.
What I want to say is that I never go buy a lottery ticket. I don't play teen patti and all that because I never win. I always lose in everything. But this is the first time I won in a lottery. Thank you.
So, good luck, sir. Thank you very much for this thing. So, we break for lunch and come back here at 1:30 again for a very exciting lecture again. Okay. Thank you very much.